Good morning. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. Good morning. Welcome back. Happy Monday. Great to see you. Great to see you. Let's see who's here. It's going to be a great catch-up day for us today. I am in full blast, onward, upward mode after a great weekend away. I will tell you all about it. Kira, good morning. Happy Monday from Water Whiz in Massachusetts. I had to look that up. That sounds super fun. Nothing like coffee time under a cabana. Oh, I feel so sorry for you. Just kidding. It sounds really fun. I want to come next time. Cynthia, good morning. Good to see you. Robin, good morning. Good to see you in Wisconsin. Anne, good morning. Welcome. I'm glad you were able to join in. Penny, good morning. I sent your thing off. I just wanted to let you know. I don't think I invoiced yet, but I sent it off just so you know it's on the way. I'm not holding you up, I hope. Beverly, good morning. Good to see you. Carol, good morning. It looks like we're getting nice weather right across the board. 70s. It's nice here too. It's pretty mild. It really feels like a immediate transition. Like there was just a day when it snapped, that heat just snapped, and it's cool. It's real cool again. Strange how fast it all happens, isn't it? Everything happens too fast. Carol and Catherine, good morning. Good to see you, Catherine. I've been seeing some great posts this morning from the Wild West hookers, right? I think that's different than the Midwest. The Wild West hookers. I just saw a bunch of posts of like a group show or get together or something. Beautiful rugs. That's another great group. Wild West hookers, Wild West rug hookers. Let me know. It's another really great Facebook group if you're on Facebook and you enjoy looking. I really like that group. April, good to see you. Good morning. Joy, good to see you. It was great to see you last night. Good morning. Joy, I sent yours too. I've got an invoice as well. Sometimes I send things before I invoice because I know you all so well. I'm not worried about it at all. I'm just trying to get stuff out the door in a hurry. Barbara, it was great seeing you too last night. I'm sorry we started a little bit late. I'm going to say good mornings and then we'll catch up on other stuff. Chrissy, good morning. Happy coffee time. Good to see you. Linda, good morning. Good to see you in New Jersey. Kirsten, good morning. Happy Monday. Gayla, good morning. Happy Monday. And Doreen, hello from New York. Great book thing. It was super fun last night. It really was. Okay, so Catherine says, yes, Wild West Rug Hookers and Cody. I love Cody. What a fun town Cody is, at Buffalo Bill Museum at the foot of the road there, and that nice shopping street with all that pretty jewelry and nice clothing, Western wear. I used to love to do the tours out west for a while, like the first 100 of them around Yellowstone and we went through Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota, right into Utah, Salt Lake City. It was a vast, long trip, lots of big views and big drives, but it was so nice out there. One of my favorite days was staying in Cody. We would always do that with the bus right before we head into Yellowstone. It was a great day. That was one of out of that whole circuit out west, that stop in Cody was the one stop that out of all of the years and all those hundreds of people, nobody ever complained about in any weather. Nobody ever complained about it. It was such a solid stop. That's what a tour guide loves, a stop that people are going to love. You don't want to hear everybody's mouth flapping when they come back on the bus about food or lines or whatever. And it never happened in Cody. It was such a good town. Wild West Hookers, just a class with Katie Hartner. Oh, how fun! How fun! I guess that's what those pictures were. That looked like a great time. Dave, good to see you. Staying cool inside with coffee, so still hot there. Okay. Dear, it's hot in Toronto. Catherine, good to see you. Good morning. Karen, good to see you. Good morning. We had such a good book night last night. It was so stressful. I hope I didn't throw too many people off. The book last night was Tracy Chevalier's see, it happened again, a single line or a single thread. It was fantastic. It was a fantastic book. We discussed that last night. It turned into a bit of a stressful night. I came home from Maine on Saturday with my mom after teaching, specifically to do the book club, to be sure I wasn't stuck in traffic or there was no issue with me getting back to initiate the book club startup, because Tracy wasn't on, of course. She's like a huge, huge famous writer. And Marcia, who was going to run it, couldn't, because we'll have to find out what's going on. I didn't look at the news this morning. But Marcia was going to host the book club. It was her pick of books this month. But the hurricane hit New Orleans last night. So she was out of power and she wasn't on at all. So that was very worrying. Has anybody heard what's happening there? what the sort of extent of it was, because to be honest, I feel rotten, but I didn't think to look this morning. I was having my own craziness this morning, and I didn't think to look, but I'm hoping that everything went all right. I was very sorry that she wasn't there to host. Crystal, good to see you. What a nice surprise. Debbie, good to see you. Maybe you could do a show. I don't run those bus tours anymore, Doreen, but I would love to, and I really have it in my heart to plan some bus tours for our group. Do some of those similar scenarios, because of course I have very close relationships after all those years. I was like the lead tour guide when I worked. I worked for Caravan. I was the lead tour guide for many of the routes that they did. I was the person who trained. I worked for the Smithsonian for a long time too, teaching teachers, doing history tours, and also sometimes taking students, but not often. Those were hard ones. They were like, it was like a pearl necklace breaking and pearls just flying all over the ground. That's what it's like to take classes of kids out on bus tours. But I'm hoping that, I guess we're looking more toward 2022. I'm hoping we can plan some bus tours this year with all of the great connections I have. We could get some great deals doing a bulk deal going around to see different sort of artsy things, looping in yarn stores and, of course, rug hooking stores, wool stores. We could do any number of things. If you have any ideas on that, please let me know. I would love to start planning for 2022, being able to get together that way and keeping the cost, quite low. If we have good numbers, we can keep the cost very low. Oh, that's okay, Barbara. I saw that you chatted that you were logging off yesterday. I had to start late to finish this stupid story. I got in the car and I had an hour and a half to get 10 minutes up the road to the studio to run the book tour last night. And before I even pulled onto the highway, the exit ramp, I got onto the exit ramp, got blocked in from the town where I live, and my GPS showed that to go one exit, like less than a mile, was going to take 4.5 hours. So I started crying in the car. I put my sunglasses on because I started crying and I couldn't stop. I was so panicked because I knew I couldn't open the Zoom and allow in like dozens of people. We had like between 50 and 60 last month. It was smaller this time, but I knew I couldn't do that for my phone, or at least I didn't know how to. So it turned into an instant 0 to 100, insane, crazy panic for me. And at the end of the day, I sat there for about an hour and a half in traffic. There was a fatality in a tunnel. Like, that's pretty much the worst, isn't it? And in every way, I mean, least of all for me. But, the traffic let out and I was able to do the show, but I wasn't in a super frame of mind, but I think it went really well. We had a great conversation talking about the characters in this beautiful Tracy Chevalier book. It was really, of course, like all of her books, really beautiful. I'm thinking about for next month. I haven't got any suggestions recently, but I was thinking about, with the change of season, with the kids going back to school, I was thinking about what's a book that really lends itself to this season, right? Kids going back to school, this wheel of the year turning a little bit, and us like facing something new. And I thought, what do you all think about maybe doing the classic book by Muriel Spark, The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie? Because it's a book and a movie, and I love them both. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It's such a good one. I think everybody would enjoy it if you hadn't read it. Maybe you haven't read it lately. And for those of you who don't have time to read it, you could at least watch the movie and enjoy the conversation with Maggie, help me out, Maggie Smith. Let me know what you think of that idea. I thought it was good for this time of year. I wanted to do books that all had to do with handcrafts, just to sort of stay in sync with what we love and our passion for hooking and punching. But there are not a ton of really good books that touch on crafts, of course, that are fiction books. So I thought maybe instead we could think about going with the seasons a little bit and try to stay in line with that rather than the hobby angle, because that's a little bit harder to chase. So let me know what you think of that. Would be awesome. Linda says, oh, it's devastating. Oh, God. Okay. It's been downgraded to a tropical storm, Beverly says. There's still a lot of power, according to the news. I haven't seen Marcia come back on. Linda says it's devastating. Grand girl there, first year at LSU. Praying for all involved. Okay. Oh, boy. All right. I'll check out the news when we log off then. Yeah. In other news, people saying fantastic to the ideas of doing some tours together, getting together on a bus, playing music, traveling, stopping for food, stopping for exciting stops. It was so much fun in those days, and I had people who, just across the spectrum, all different kinds of people. And I always did history-driven tours because that's my strength. But imagine if we did a tour together, all the fun places that we could stop, and we wouldn't have to be like fusty, musty. We could be a bit more seat of the pants and say, you know what, we have an extra hour here. We just drove by a really cute farm stand or a really cute fair or festival. We could just stop. We wouldn't be at the mercy of a large operator that's telling me, dictating where I have to be at 7 minutes past the hour. We could really have fun tearing it up a bit. Dame Maggie Smith, you're right, Linda. I said it without the dame. That's not good, is it? So I was thinking that might be an idea. I might post that later unless anybody wants to hit me with a different idea. I'm always open to ideas. I do not need to be the queen bee. I got a lot going on. So if someone else has a great idea and you want to take over our book club this month, I will certainly be on as a participant, and I will defer to anybody else's idea if someone else has an idea. So, I went to Maine this weekend. Me and my mom went up on Friday, worried about traffic, and we hit so much traffic. So much. Again, an accident, right? People driving crazy. It's just infuriating. You lose hours out of the day that you could be walking around an antique store having a nice lobster meal because somebody somewhere you assume because you see and you have eyes was driving crazy. But we got up to Maine and we had a great time. And you know what? Tomorrow we're going to have a very funny episode because I don't know if you remember me saying this quite a while back, but I stopped at this antique store in Maine and I saw this rug that was very old and in terrible condition, like really like deplorable condition, on a very old frame, not like a chetty camp, just like a quilt frame or a needlepoint frame. And I looked at it and I thought, oh man, how am I ever going to fix that? It's like its head is hanging on by a thread, the entire thing. But it was a very, very different, wacky kind of Native American style design. And when I walked away from it, I bought other stuff. But when I walked away from it, I got home and I thought, man, I wonder if that was an Abenaki. Do you remember that? And I remember there's another woman who did Abenaki, not Charlotte Stratton, but somebody from that town. Maybe it'll pop in. One was from, I think, Vermont. One was from New Hampshire. I think Helen Albee was New Hampshire. But there was somebody from Vermont who was also doing Native American inspired rugs at the same time. And there was kind of in some of the texts that we did in some of our coffee time episodes, a bit of a competition, maybe a little bit of a rivalry. But it occurred to me afterward, I wonder if it was one of the rugs of those people, because I thought when I walked away from it, it's probably a Pearl McGowan or a Jane McGowan rug with like real ethnic feel to it. And then I thought, no way, is that a, middle 20th century rug? It's definitely not. It was more like, I would think in the style of Jane anyway, so that would put it late 20th century. I thought, no way, it's had it. I mean, it looks like it's been through a thresher, a threshing machine. So I got it this time. And you know what I'm going to do tomorrow? It's in awful condition. I'm going to clear my table in the workroom here. Doing this with my hands already. I'm excited. Do you remember years ago, Geraldo Rivera, right? The talk show? And do you remember that episode years ago where he found Al Capone's, not tomb, but his safe or something like that, right? And he opened it on live TV. Do you all remember this? And I was just a little kid, but everybody was so excited because you didn't know. I mean, I guess I was hoping to see dead bodies in there, right? Al Capone and all that. But also riches, like, opening King Tut's tomb or finding the Amber Room, the Russian Amber Room, something like that. And if you remember this story, it turned out to be nothing. It was a total storm in a teacup. There was absolutely nothing in there. It was empty. There wasn't even a rodent in there. So it was super anticlimactic, but it's probably going to be the same thing. Tomorrow, I thought, let's do an Al Capone, Geraldo Rivera. I'm going to put the thing on the table, on its stretchers, because I only want to do this once. And while we're live for coffee time, I'm going to unroll it and remove it from its frame. And let's see if we can find any clues, because again, I haven't touched it and I can't see anything on it. Let's see if there's any kind of writing or anything that we can find looking at this very old rug. I would say 1900, 1910s, 1920s tops. Very old rug in very bad condition. Let's get it off the frame together live and see if there's anything in terms of clues in the margin that we can lock into. We'll make it into a group project. See if we can do an Al Capone and hey, Kira, and see if we can find anything out. In worst case scenario, we just find a beautiful rug and maybe talk about how it can be repaired or not. maybe even identify the pattern. If it is a pattern that I'm missing and haven't found, maybe you can find it. But that'll be part of our episode tomorrow. We will do a live reveal of this very mysterious rug. It's had me on sort of tenterhooks wondering if I made a bad call, and I was very happy to see it in the store and get back to that. So we went up to Maine. Anne is on. Anne was in the class. Oh, that, yeah. And, speaking has always been real easy for me. I'm just lucky. I know it's not for everybody. I know my mom agonizes when she has to say something. If she's leading a church group or art or something, she agonizes. I'm very lucky. I guess I'm too foolish to worry about that stuff. Whenever I speak in front of people, because I was a cabaret singer too for a while, whenever I get up, I always think of these horrible things like peeing in my pants in the 3rd grade and how that followed me for the next 12 years. Things like that, really bad things that I think, it doesn't get any worse than that. What could I possibly do in this moment that would be worse than peeing in your pants when you're a big grown-up kid and then having people make fun of you for the next 12 years? Everything after that is like, who cares, right? So I just think of that every time I have to do something that should be intimidating. But Anne, I have to show my great treasure of the class. So I went up to Maine and we ran the show in Kennebunkport at the Arundel Farm Inn. Next year, we already decided with Julie there, that's where the Molly Nitobe rug lives. She bought that at an auction, so I hope you saw that post on Facebook. Super exciting for me to touch that and look at that close up again. But we're going to run 2 classes next year, and I'm going to give you lots of notice. We needed a bit more notice this time. It was a last minute thing. So Julie and I decided that at the very end of spring, early summer next year, way at the beginning of the roster, I'm going to run a class in Kennebunkport, same place, because it was a beautiful air-conditioned gallery spot for us with lots of tables set up and lots of room. I'm going to run a class in hooking with T-shirts, right? And I'm going to bring a pile of T-shirts, tie-dye, colorful T-shirts, because we're all going to be thinking about T-shirts. We're going to be right at the edge of the summer again. And I'm going to do a hooking with T-shirts, true, scrappy, thrifty class. And it's going to be amazing. And then later in the year, way at the end, more toward like August, September, I'm going to run another program there that's more traditional, and I'll do a new design for that, more traditional rug hooking, like a motif, like a basket motif, something autumnal like that. But I have to show Anne what you made for me. Get ready. We did the rug exchange in our Facebook group, and Anne had me. Like she had me to make a rug for. And Christina, if you're watching, I sent your rug out over the weekend, so I hope that you like yours. And then I can reveal it to the rest of you, but it's a surprise for now. Oh, who's on? Anita. Good afternoon, Anita. Sharon, hello from Vancouver. Good to see you. I have to show you the rug that Anne made for me. You ready? Let me see. I want to make sure that it really... Da-da-da! Do you all see that? I'm going to show you close up, but I have it up here. And she wrote me the most beautiful poem. How crazy is that? You see she's got all these ribbon candies for ribbon candy hooking on the frame. And obviously that's me. I think that's a really good likeness. Can you believe that she did that? Can you believe it? I couldn't believe it. I was so blown away, Anne, by the poem, by you, by being able to be together at last. And this was just the pièce de résistance, right? It's just crazy, isn't it? Isn't that amazing? It's right here with jam sandwich. This is the corner of excellence right here. These are like my favorite things. Oh, you know what? I'm going to have to put my other buddy up here. I'm going to move this, Tara. I'm going to move that over to my excellence wall too. I just love having these things. Thank you so much. How can you ever thank somebody for a gift like that? I mean, it's just so over the top. It's amazing. It makes me feel like the one I gave was just so crappy because this is just amazing. So thank you so much. I knew you all would love that. It was a beautiful location. It was absolutely beautiful. It was so much fun. It was a small group. It was 5. It was a bit last minute. I know it's hard to get there in the summer, but we're going to have a lot of notice next year. It really was the best venue. It's such a beautiful, I think it's an 18th century house. It's just a beautiful venue. Lots of fun. Thank you, Anne. I mean, it can't be any better than that. I was so blown away. And the other people in the class were such nice friends, right? I mean, they were just everybody was fun and funny and loose and wild and free. We didn't have to be careful about what we said. We were just all wild, and it was fun, and I think we got a lot done. There was a ton of inspiration, and it was just fantastic. It worked really well, and it was a lot of fun. I'm glad that we did that. And then we got back, and I got a few things that I wanted to show you some stuff, but I won't be able to do everything today. I'm going to run over for sure. But I wanted to show you a couple of other things. I want to tie up the Maine thing because I had found earlier in the summer this great issue of Yankee magazine, and there is I think I'll start with this tomorrow. You know what? No, I'll do this now. Who cares, right? We'll just run over. I'll do it in a second. I see you're all making comments for Anne. That makes me real happy. I found this issue of Yankee magazine. Of course, this is really sort of Maine heavy. 1949. I think it's April 1949. I want to look at this in a minute because there's this one little article about this rug hooking couple that I used in the thumbnail for today. Their names are changing of the guards here. Stanley and Virginia Burgeson of East Eliot, Maine. Okay, this is 1949, right? And their business was called Home of Craftsmans Hooked Rug Patterns. It is a mouthful, but this is what their sign looked like, and this is them in their studio. That's the thumbnail. Husband and wife team. I wanted to read a little bit about that in a minute because that had such a good connection to being in Maine this weekend. But I wanted to catch you up on other news. Before I get into that and we sign off, I just want to remind you the 5 Brady Bunch colored for the next dye class, wools and yarns. I have not forgotten, I just have been away. I need to figure out which effects I want to do on these for the class, but it's going to be a total of 10 colors, and this is the palette. And I have to say, I really like it. I think it has enough of that 70s look, pulling from the show and looking at stills of what the show looked like, without being too much of one thing, if you see what I mean. I really like this palette. So I'll photograph that better and show it to you. And I do have a couple of fairs and classes coming up. I'm trying to decide if I'm doing this or my sugar skulls in Madison in October. I've been working on a very last minute. I took this with me to Maine, so I wasn't working on it for long. But it's called Meow Mola. I just sketched this like classic sort of Mexican scary cat. I arched his back a little bit more, and I put all this kind of mola stuff behind him. And then I started hooking with all these crazy colors, right? A bunch. These are all hand-dyed colors that I did, and I'm hooking them all into the background. You could easily punch it, but I couldn't find my punch when I sat into bed when I started working on it because it was in the car. And I already had my pants off, laying in bed, so there was no way I was going back outside. So it gets hooked. It would have been a lot faster to punch it, but I got this far with hooking it. So we'll figure out, Penny, of course you do, it's a cat. We'll figure out how to make that work. And I want to give you a glimpse. We're coming up to, today, thank you. Did you finish the mod piece? No, Debbie, I have to finish the mod piece. I just walked by it this morning and I went, I've got to finish that piece. I should just put the patterns out, make them available also. But I have to finish both my mod pieces. And then I was going to do the third one with the boomerang flowers, all in velvet. So I have to finish those too. I signed a book contract this morning, so that's another huge looming thing, and there's more on that because that's something I want us to work on together. But also this morning, Jocelyn went to school, and this has been really heavy and crazy for me because of everything that's going on. Jocelyn, you know her from our videos, and she's often on with me. She is 7, and she is entering 2nd grade, and she's in school this morning. So Teddy is not. And in a nutshell, just because I know a lot of us are close, the reason he's not is because he's on the spectrum, he's autistic, and he's been in a special class for the last 5 years. And we got notification right before school started that they changed his school for the 5th time in 5 years. So that is not okay for me, for him to be on this crazy carousel as an autistic child. They have not integrated him at all with what they call typical children nowadays, people who are not on the spectrum. And there was no way on earth that at this point in this climate that I was going to put my 2 little kids who are not vaccinated into 2 different schools to collect on 2 different huge germ pools. There was no way on earth I was doing that. So I started a big, who cares, right? I started a big thing in our town. I was right at the stage of hiring a lawyer, but instead I hired an advocate. I was going to sue the town at this point. 5 years of fun. And the advocate seems to have been making progress getting Teddy into the neighborhood school as well. The neighborhood school in the neighborhood where I live is extremely liberal, to the point of, almost nauseousness. They're such hip, green, cool people. Nothing against it, but it's a lot. And they're all mostly Yale people, and they're all pretty, I feel comfortable about them going into school. I feel comfortable about the germ thing. But if Teddy does not go there, he will be homeschooling with me this year. If they cannot get both butts in the same school, he'll be homeschooling with me. So fingers crossed, say a little prayer. Joss is in there. She was so excited. Teddy was a bit sad because he would like to go too. It's been a year and a half since he's been with people his age. We don't have any friends because we've changed schools 5 times in 5 years. We don't have a single friend. So fingers crossed, say a little prayer that all of this turns out right. So it was a bit of a hard morning for me because, thank you, Catherine. I will let you know all about it because I'm going to be reaching out on that book for ideas and for people to contribute a ton. But, made me a bit melancholy sending them off to school this morning. And I wanted to show you a glimpse of the, Penny says, I don't blame you. You are. I was his best advocate, and I was the president of the special education PTA for a while. And I found that it did absolutely no good. It got me blocked on some of the Board of Education emails from emailing too much. They weren't even taking my emails anymore, advocating for other people's kids. And meanwhile, my little one is still stuck on this crazy hamster wheel. So yeah, I'm done. We're done. We're looking for a solution. But it was a bit melancholy dropping them off at school, and I wanted to show you, thinking about school and all of these changes, the pattern for September that will be coming out probably the day after tomorrow. I haven't quite finished it. I told you about it, but I haven't showed it yet. And it is going to be, now it's not there completely, so it's hard to visualize, but it's like blackboard green, right? And all these sort of mixed colors of chalk, little school, and on it, I had written school, but then I wrote 1972 for the year that I was born. C for a cloud, there's a bell up here, there's a sun, and there's an S on the nose. A couple of crayons, blue and pink. Little apple, it's all different colors that are not showing up well. A little tree, and over here a hook. It's going to do that. And then around the border, Doreen, was it your idea? Who threw out the idea? Doreen, it might have been you, to use this one right around the border, which I am doing. I'm using it around the border with then the chalk mark, not the chalk, the eraser, lines like this, and then this, and then this, almost like a log cabin, right? That kind of thing around the border. So to be continued, that's coming out soon, and it's a beautiful color palette. I hope you will love that. You know what that got me thinking of? I'm just taking a small detour. This will be a protracted episode. I might do the main thing tomorrow. It got me thinking about the year and the calendar and the cycle of the year, right? All of the seasons coming and going, how fast it's all happening, how quickly everything is, I guess, returning to normal. And it got me thinking about school days and stuff like this. Do you all remember the expression red letter days? Because people just don't know this expression anymore. Nobody says red letter days anymore. And I saw this book on the shelf, and I thought, you know what? Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Crystal. I hope he gets into... And if he does, just incidentally, if he does get into school, he will have a paraprofessional with him. And I've mixed feelings about that too, but that's a person who sits with him in the regular class with his regular typical kids and helps him if he needs help with focusing, with anything. And then kids who are autistic get pulled out a couple times a day for speech. I mean, he speaks better than I do. I mean, he spoke Dutch as a first language, and now English, and he speaks better than I do. That's not a thing, but they routinely have these kids go to a speech therapist and a psychotherapist, or maybe psychiatrist. But either way, I find it a little bit jarring that they don't want to spend the money to have these kids go to school in their neighborhood with their neighbors, but they don't mind spending the money to give them all these extra things and force them to be pulled out of class for psychiatry during the school day. I'm going to leave that one alone. But red letter days got me thinking about the whole wheel of the year. Now, I'm just wondering, no, it wasn't you, Doreen. Who suggested it? It's one of our buddies who's on all the time. We'll see. Maybe she'll pop up. But anyway, I started looking at this book about Red Letter Days, 1940, and it made me want to ask you, do you remember red letter days, all of the holidays that we used to celebrate, right? Way back when. I'm not going to start an old-timey conversation, but it got me thinking about holidays that we don't celebrate anymore. And I want to make a big deal about it because the season is changing. Maybe we could do this better at the beginning of the year in January, but I want to do it now. I'm having so much sort of upset and change right now. Maybe you are too, with things going back to normal. But I'm looking through the table of contents for inspiration, ideas, help, and I'm seeing things like we still celebrate New Year's Day, not so much Lincoln's birthday, Valentine's Day, Washington's birthday. These used to be red letter days at school that were a huge big deal, right? Even when I was growing up, it was a huge big deal to celebrate Washington's birthday and Lincoln's birthday. Sorry to Canadian friends, because this is just a bit of a leap. But, of course, St. Patrick's Day, Easter, April Fool's Day, Arbor Day. I mean, we hear about it, but we don't really celebrate Arbor Day. Here's one that's completely gone, Pan American Day. Do you remember that one? Just going through these chapters and reading about them and why we celebrate gave me so many ideas for new compositions. Maybe you too. May Day. I mean, we don't celebrate that in a school setting anymore. That's a bit, sort of British folky and has sort of sexual undertones. But nonetheless, I think we used to celebrate it with maypoles and things like that. Mother's Day, Memorial Day, Flag Day, Independence Day, Columbus Day. Of course, we don't celebrate it all. Halloween with the parenthesis with the apostrophe between the two e's. Armistice Day, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas, and then there's a ton of other holidays, feast days, and fast days. And isn't that so funny how that has changed? And in this book, again, this is just an inspiration detour we're taking here. The author, she's one of my favorite authors, Elizabeth Hugh or Howe Seacrest. I don't know if you remember her from school, but we had all her hardcover books in our classroom growing up. She does books for every season, plays, poems, beautiful illustrations that you can really look at and be super inspired if you are a seasonal or holiday sort of inspired person. You go on the bridge from one to the next to the next. We're getting into that time of year. But she does this great introduction about the story of the calendar, which really got me going. And I really want to think about this as time goes on. As we get toward the end of the year, I really want to think about this because at one point, the calendar was called the checkerboard of days and nights, right? That was what it was referred to as by Omar Khayyam like 1,000 years ago, the checkerboard of days and nights. And I think that really ties into the change of seasons. And it's just so interesting. She talks about how the calendar started. This got me really going with all kinds of images that we could use. I'd love to do something with a calendar at some point before it's too late so people could start hooking a design like this. I'm looking to brainstorm. She talks about, of course, the Egyptians, their solar calendar, how they used the pyramids with light to tell time and thus to tell days, and how in the olden days, the early days, the first thousands of years ago, not like, our grandparents' day, they would count the days by the nights. They wouldn't count the days, they would count the nights. And I thought, how interesting is that? Going back to the conversation on kids and all these changes at this time of year, when you were a kid, don't you remember counting the days and nights? I mean, I remember when we were about to go on vacation, I would say to my parents, how many sleeps before we go? How many sleeps? Because that's how I measured the nights too as a child. It was easier than measuring the day. The day has so many parts to it. You get confused. You had breakfast, but you did 10 things since then, and you can't even remember that was still the same day. But the sleeps, you do remember the sleeps. It's so funny to me that counting nights was the custom, particularly among ancient Germans, counting the nights rather than the days. In those days, like 1,000 years ago, they didn't count autumn as part of the year. They only had 3 seasons, and I think that's odd with us getting squarely into autumn. They didn't count that at all. I thought that was a really curious change that's happened over the years. What a great book this is, though. Nothing to do with rug hooking, but a serious inspiration book. Talks about different people, how they celebrated. It just really got me excited. Got me looking at all these holidays, and then I ended up pulling up on the internet one of those things like, wacky holidays. spilled milk day, let's all get together day, let's all open a bag of Planters Peanuts day. I mean, none of those are actually days, but you know what I mean. They're crazy days. So it led me to want to look again at days. Remember how earlier this year I did 2 or 3 times I put out a special free pattern for a special calendar day. I want to get back to doing that again. And I'm just going to do foreshadowing. I'm just foreshadowing Kirsten. Kirsten sent this morning a bunch of great pictures that she did, images that she did, drawing designs on a Post-it note. She sent a whole bunch in our thread that we write to each other all day long. She sent a whole bunch, and they were beautiful designs she did with markers, color design on a Post-it note. So I just want to let you know, we started talking about it, and I said, we need to do this in our group. We need to do some kind of a Post-it challenge where you have to just sit down with a Post-it note and draw a simple design. It's probably not going to be an animal or a person, just a shapy design. And we're brainstorming about a way that we can do a Post-it challenge. It's not supposed to take you an hour or a day. It's supposed to take you a few minutes. Do a whole bunch on a Post-it note and get ready. You know, color them in, because we're trying to figure out what the best sort of format or platform is once we get all of these Post-it notes in together from all of us who want to just add a Post-it note to be able to contribute them and share them so we can each share each other's Post-it notes. You know, it's a variation on the sharing project because we don't have to hook them. We just have to draw them on a Post-it note. And then everybody will have the choice of all of these Post-it notes to be able to say, oh, I like this one, and this one. I'm going to work on those. I'm going to use those designs, and then you know whose design it was. Just simple, silly designs on Post-it notes. So that's coming up, the Post-it note challenge. I just said to Kirsten before this episode started, possibly thinking about saying, like, let's work on Post-it notes until, for example, the autumn equinox. Just to give a nice, solid seasonal date, not to sound like a witch or anything like that. Nothing against witches, of course. But, you know, just a seasonal date that is a bit of a folklorish date again, but that really separates not just the seasons, but night and day. You know, the equinox is all about the dark light, the separation evening out, right? The temperature evening out, the day to night thing evening out, kind of right in the middle of the year, longest day, shortest day, all of that evening out at the autumn equinox. I thought maybe that's something. So think about it. Look for your Post-it notes. Pull out your junk drawer, that hardware drawer. Pull out a thing of Post-it notes. Just put it next to you, just so you can squiggle in lines and color them in with kids' markers and just be wild and free. And think about, let's pull those in the near future. We'll organize this a bit better, and maybe get some designs, and we can just do maybe like an Andy Warhol. I might do like a set of 9 or 16 or something like this. Kara says you could put all the Post-its together as a pattern for the year. Ooh, and it could be, the group could have a yearly pattern bringing it all together. Holy moly's, Kira. That is a great idea. Wouldn't that be amazing? I could create a design for everybody that wanted to. Hopefully we end up with a multiple, you know, that could be divided into a nice rectangle or square. And if not, we could always kick in some extras, right, or do doubles. Wouldn't that be a nice idea? Kind of our calendar for the year. People contributing Post-it notes, something that would be super easy to hook or punch, very graphic, try to stick more with like geometrics and abstracts, just shapes, nothing too fiddly. That's a great idea. Yeah, Kirsten likes that idea too. I like that. I was looking for something that represented us as we're getting further along in the year, wake-up call. Something that represented us and our group and how close we are, how close we've become, how tight and how happy and cozy it is to be part of this group. You know, that's a great idea. I really like that. Now my head is going in that direction, using the Post-it notes to make a big pattern at the end of the year that I'll put out as a free pattern that, you know, you could hook it over time. It might end up being rug size with all of the buddies who are on. But what a great project to come back to come in and out of, right? What a great project that would be. I could also put it out as a miniature punch or Russian punch, like much smaller, kind of a micro mosaic for people that prefer to do that. Interesting. I like that a lot. We certainly need to all come together these days, Anne says. That's absolutely true. We certainly do. Things are getting scary. I hope we're on the same page with all these kids mixing in school again. It's super scary. So we are over our time. I think I told you all the most important things for today. I'm just looking behind me, not for a monster, to see if there's anything else. I think that's it for now. I'll have a bunch more things to tell you tomorrow. I'll give you the dates for the classes that are coming up. The one in Vermont, the weekend after Columbus Day weekend. So I guess we're not celebrating Columbus Day, but we'll celebrate the weekend. I still want to celebrate all those holidays. I'm going to say it. I want to celebrate all of them and then some. But and then I'll give you the date for Madison if you're near me and you want to come to the sort of Halloween class. We might end up doing the sugar skull. I think Dana, who runs the store, would rather do the sugar skull. So if there's a place near you, a yarn store or a place that you see the possibility of having a class, I have some open dates in October or November or even December. And I would love to go to some different places for the weekend that I can get to in the car. Where we could do like some more sort of holiday stuff, Wheel of the Year stuff, do some more fall/Halloween stuff, harvest stuff, Thanksgiving, of course, and Canadian Thanksgiving coming up. And of course, holiday stuff, whether you celebrate, whether, whatever religion you are, you celebrate Christmas, or we could celebrate Passover, we could celebrate Yom Kippur coming up really soon. We could celebrate lots of things. We could celebrate everything together, right? So if you know of any venues, please send me a note at ribboncandyhooking.com. I don't always have time to research, but I do have dates opening up now that we're getting past all those crazy dates in the summer. And I would like to do some stuff in the fall and winter with you in different places and your buddies and some new faces. So let me know if you have any thoughts on that. Oh, Sharon, I would love to. I would love to. I've been thinking about Canada a lot. When I was in Maine, there was a Canadian couple checking out at this gallery the same time me and my mom were there. And she was so upset. I mean, you could just feel it. I really felt for her because she apparently has a home in Maine too. She was talking to the gallery person, and she said, it's just not nice. She said, from our point of view, that Canadians can't come here, but Americans are allowed to go over the line. And I never thought about that, to be honest, because it's not like I'm eating my cake and having my cake and eating it too. But it did occur to me that it's a thing, isn't it? And I really feel for people who are in Canada right now after having eavesdropped on this conversation, that it is quite a difficult thing that we are allowed to come up there where you are something like 85% vaccinated. Less for us here. Of course, in New England, I think we're a pretty good number. We're pretty high up. But I thought that's a bit of an awkward thing, isn't it? It's a bit of an awkward thing. We'll see how that goes. But Sharon, thank you. And I will be coming to Canada, hopefully sooner rather than later, because I haven't been for ages. And I am ready to go. All right, me too, Anne. Have a great day, everybody. I'm going to get some orders out, and I'm going to work on the Frida Kahlo pattern so you can see what I'm working on, and that will be a great sort of advertisement for our Design Like Frida Kahlo class coming up. I'll announce the date in September. I'll probably do that this afternoon. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Fingers crossed for the little ones at school who left today. And I will see you soon. I will see you tomorrow for a little bit of Maine, and then we will do the Geraldo Rivera, the Diana Rivera unveiling of the mysterious Native American rug that I found this weekend. We'll do that tomorrow together.